um, Spike's cigarette is... Spike's cigarette, the fact that he's always smoking a cigarette, is a symbol that's really not that hard to read. That states that, it's shown at the last scene of this episode, that he's holding a cigarette after he's stared out of the window at space. And he's contemplating, he just saw this horrible scene in one of the few times where I actually think he's actually having a human reaction. And he actually has a human reaction. This is why I say his character is explored more in this episode than it is in most. Is because he actually has a few human reactions. Oh God. I have to pause that thought for a second because we've just come into the fucking bathroom stall. Nothing about this episode, in even the background, is subtle. When we see, I can imagine what the script must have looked like and what it called for the animators to do, which was, well, we need a spaceship, but it needs to look busted up. It needs to look worn out. It needs to look old and shabby. It doesn't need to have any of that Star Trek shine or gleam on it. And they could say, okay, we're going to have Spike walk into a bathroom stall, and it's going to have graffiti on it. It's going to look dirty and grungy, and like it's part of a bad part of town. But wow, did they go overboard. I mean, the ship is not just beat up. There's scratches in places you could not possibly get scratches on. I mean, it can't all be like re-entry afterburn. It has to be just, it looks forced. It looks tacked on, like they're decals. You put too many decals on a model plane, and it stops looking in any way realistic. Like a plane would never have that many symbols or stickers placed on it representing how many kills it's had, how many crossbones and skulls it has to represent kills. It just looks, if you have that on like the plane's wing or something, you're not gonna buy that. And that's what it looks like to me, because there are dents and knocks and scratches all over the damn thing. Like, I can't even fathom how it could possibly gain that many scars in any realistic manner. Like, they're trying to make it look more realistic, yet somehow in their effort to, they went way overboard and came out with the exact opposite result, and it looks like it looks fake. Like, the scratches look fake. And the bathroom stall is the worst. Like, the scene calls for a bathroom stall with a lot of grungy graffiti work all over it. Well, they went, oh my god, they got trigger happy with that, because there is not a single solitary inch of the bathroom that is not covered in really meaningless graffiti. Some of it has meaning, some of it is like interesting background work for, this planet, this colony, and most of it though is just meaningless garbage. And I've seen trains that are covered in graffiti. I've seen train box cars that where you can tell they went way overboard trying to put as much graffiti as possible. That's nothing compared to this scene. It looks forced. It looks like they just went overboard. It looks cartoonish how much graffiti is in that room. And it doesn't look like graffiti artists. It looks so much as it looks like an army of 12-year-olds came in with a black marker, and the writers told them to have a party. You know what? Even that description doesn't feel like enough. And then a scene calls for the woman who's running around with the drug dealer to go up to a soda can machine. And once again, the script calls for a soda can machine. Well, they went way overboard because there's an entire fucking wall of soda machines and food dispensers. Wow. I mean, just wow. Have you ever seen that? An entire fucking wall. I mean, it's just like, it's not enough that she can walk up to a candy dispenser. She has to walk up to an entire wall of it. And if we're really supposed to buy that this is some kind of degenerate part of town, who's paying for those canned drink dispenser machines? And if it really is just a bad part of town, why is there an entire wall of them there? And have you ever seen a wall of food dispensers? I mean, yeah, maybe one or two, but I'm talking about, I could go back and count like 5 or 6 in the shot alone. And there's more out of the shot that she's covering up with her body. You didn't need that many, guys. You got your point across. And then this background wall that they're at now. You know, the script once again calls for a mom and pop store style list of dishes at a restaurant. It's a wall mounted menu, and it looks, it's hand made, it's hand painted, and yeah, I know that this place is supposed to be, it was once sort of a bigger city than it is. You can tell by looking at it. Once again, this is where the background artistry really does work. You can tell that it used to be a bigger city than it is now, and now it's more like a dying town, or at least it's a lot poorer than it used to be. And that's all fine and good. And that's just to help set up that this mom and pop diner that they're at has this hand painted, rundown looking menu on it, on the wall. Well, it's not just a menu. By God, it's a huge menu that takes up the entire fucking wall, and with huge ass font. That doesn't just take up the wall behind where Spike and the drug dealer sit. It takes up the wall adjacent to it. It's called subtlety, guys. Oh, and speaking of subtlety, if their intention was to make me think about the lines between Spike and the drug dealer's girlfriend, I mean, I get that there's some actual symbolism there with Spike's body motions, which once again goes back into how this episode explores Spike's character a lot more than most do. But other than that, any subtlety is completely ruined by the dialogue. They didn't need to say a quarter of the things they said. And it would have made me thought more about what was going on, and would have made me question what was going on in my head a lot more.